All right, so let's go ahead and fit our regression in R using the LM function. Remember, our outcome is support for Bush leading up to the Iraq War. So Bush-Iraq is the outcome. And our two covariates from last time are party ID and the additive effect of age. And now what we're adding in is that third estimated coefficient, the interaction between party ID and age dummy. So when we fit our regression, we get our estimated coefficients, and we need to try to think about how to make sense about whether or not there's an interactive relationship between party ID and age dummy. So the first thing that we're going to do is set up a null hypothesis test. Now let's think. What would be a natural null hypothesis test to check for an interactive relationship between party ID and age? We can say that beta 3 is equal to 0 as our null hypothesis. Therefore, our alternate would be that there is a positive or negative linear interactive effect between these two variables. We can set up our test statistic as any other before, where we have our estimated beta, over our standard error, and we get approximately negative 0.14 as our test statistic. You'll remember that in order to retrieve our p-value, we're going to do a two-sided test. Now, in order to access the t distribution, we have to remember what our degrees of freedom are, n minus 4. Why is it n minus 4? Well, it's n minus k minus 1, and we have 3 now estimated coefficients that we have with the addition of our interaction between party ID and age. When we calculate our p-value, we get approximately 0.86. Therefore, we can say that there is not sufficient evidence to reject the null hypothesis that there is no relationship or is no interactive relationship, linear interactive relationship between party ID and age. In other words, the average effect on more support of a 1-unit increase in party ID does not necessarily depend on age, right? There is not a difference in slopes for party ID by age. With our estimated coefficients, we can also go ahead and fit the two regression lines, first for our young age group and then second for our older age group. So for the individuals who were younger, d equals 0, and therefore the last two terms can cancel out and we just have our beta naught plus beta 1 times the value of x, which is party ID. For older individuals, we keep in those terms, right? And so that also is incorporated into our fitted line. Now in R, what we're going to do is literally just take these estimated coefficients from our regression object and plug them into our fitted line and then plot them to visually see that there really is no difference in slopes between the two lines. So when we do that for the younger individuals, the baseline category, we can do the intercept, which is the first regression coefficient, as well as the slope. We want to take that, and that is going to be the second coefficient. For older individuals, we need to be a little bit more strategic, right? And look back at our equations to actually calculate the intercept and the slope. And so to do that, our intercept is not only going to be the first beta, or beta naught, but also, in addition, it's going to be our third beta. So the second one, technically, the third in the list from the regression object. Then our slope is going to be a combination of beta 1, which is the second element in the coefficients, and beta 3, which again is the fourth element. We can then plot this using abline, again, just telling it exactly what the y-intercept is, as well as the slope, and then I'm differentiating by color so that we can see this visually. Now, again, what we see is that there is no real indication that we should have an interactive effect between age groups, i.e., there is not a difference in slopes of the effect of party ID on support for the war by age group. Now, we certainly may want to still have an additive effect, though we found in the last time that that also was not statistically reliable. And so we might really want to question the way that we're modeling age with regard to support for the war.